again. Just want to talk about a few things very interesting today. Things are moving really, really fast with Bitcoin. But I want to talk about a few things today. Of course, the Bitcoin trend lines, resistance lines, support lines, where everything's going. Where Bitcoin's heading long term, which right now short term obviously is up. And the new tool that I've started using, it's not new, it's been around for a while, but I've started using it, so it's new to me. Fairly new. I've been using it now for a few months, a couple months. And then an interesting comment that came out yesterday on a letter that I received. I'm subscribed to a letter on Citibank Managing Director and how it relates to Bitcoin. And then I'm going to bring you back to Bitcoin and show you, actually I'll show you Bitcoin first. We'll go through all that first, and then I'll read the comment about the Managing Director at Citibank. So here we are at Bitcoin. Obviously you can see this is the weekly chart, and you can see that it has gone through all of these support and resistance lines that I've had here for quite a while. And it came up and hit this one here at around 12.3, 12.4, and then bounced back down to this one, which was here for quite a while, and then has broken through this one, which was a real this high point here at 13.7. And at the time, I haven't done a recording for about 4 months. I was meant to get to this and do a recording, and I was saying that likely, if it continued in this trajectory, would be the next stop would be here at 17,237 or 70, somewhere around there, and that's where we are today. It just broke through that anyway. So now I'm just going to flip to the day chart, and we can see these lines at a little bit closer. Followed this trend line up here, came back down to this trend line, so there was a channel, a narrowing channel, and then finally broke through that. A little bit of a pause here at 13.735 or so, and then broke through that, and then paused here. This is a daily, so this is about a week it's been sitting here, and then has moved up here. And if we move in closer, we'll see I have a little like a flag here. So if we move into, like, say, the 4 hour, here's that flag. And a flag is usually an indication of a movement up. So I originally had the flag a little bit tighter than this, but when it came down to this one here, I expanded it out to follow these three points here, and it came out to here. Broke through this flag, kind of. I was wondering, okay, maybe that's a false breakout. Came back down here, so I was wondering if it would hold at this 50, which it did. And being on the 4 hour chart, this is basically a couple of days here, or pardon me, a day, and then it's just taken off today. And here we can see it finally broke through this in the past few hours, 4 hours or so. 17,246, and is now sitting at 17,500, and it actually peaked at so it's just falling back just slightly right now as the time that we speak. So now I just want to go back to the weekly. I'm going to clean up some of these lines here that we really don't need anymore, like, excuse me, this one here. That cleans it up a bit. This one is now support, so that's fine. So what we have here is Bitcoin is on the move, and where is it going to go? Obviously up, and the next line of resistance would be at this point here, the last high of, what do we got, just under 20,000. It's at 19,891. So, and there's really nothing here in this area that see, in this area here, there's really nothing to stop the move from where it is now to basically 20,000, the next high, or the previous high. What I think it's going to do over the next 2-3 weeks, maybe even a couple weeks, is reach that point, and then it's going to pause. And they have a channel here now, and it may bounce back down, come back down. Let's just move this over a little bit. Oops, let's get rid of that. And what do we got here? It may go up, say, you know, up to, you know, something like that, and then kind of bounce down before it makes a decision to continue higher, which in my opinion it will, or drop even further back down to here, which I think is highly unlikely. So if we look at this, let's get rid of this guy. If we go into the day, then we can see, oh, I didn't get rid of it. So here I had these, a little closer look to these lines here, pointed here, and it followed along this trend line, which is an ancient trend line now. I've had it here forever, just following it out, pulling it out. And then I drew this one here, connecting these points, and figured once it broke through this resistance here, that it would move to the next resistance, which is basically what it did fairly quickly. And then this trend line goes out, extends out. This was a much shorter trend line that I figured it would follow. And it moved up past that and then kind of stalled here. And if we look at that on the 4 hour, just drop down to the 4 hour, we can see that that's where it created that little flag. And I figured once it broke through that flag, that it would continue up to this resistance here, which it did. And in fact, the resistance here really wasn't much of a resistance. It's broken right through it. This is we're on the 4 hour, so we need to wait and see what it does here. But my opinion is that once it broke that, there's really not a whole lot of resistance there, so it will likely continue from this point up to the 20,000 mark. And if you've been watching any of my old videos from 4 months back and further, you know how I'm able to draw these lines, or where they come from and how they work. So the other thing I wanted to bring out today is this new tool. Well, it's new to me. It's not been around. It's been around for a long time, but it's the Bitcoin dominance chart, which is, if you see all of these are what we call altcoins. You have Bitcoin, then you have all these other. You have Ethereum, and then you have all these altcoins and whatnot. So there's the Ethereum chart on the 4 hour. Let's go back to the day chart actually. And I have you know, resistance and support lines here as well. And interesting looking at I've drawn out a bit of a channel. It seems to have appeared for Ethereum, and where Ethereum is going. XRP's made some good moves today. But what I wanted to show you was this thing called the Bitcoin dominance chart. And it's very interesting, because what's happening in the crypto market right now is a kind of a split from Bitcoin and the rest of the altcoins. And what you see, sometimes Bitcoin rises and the rest of the altcoins in the past have just been kind of hanging back and not really doing much. So Bitcoin dominance has been increasing, and that's what this chart is. So let's go back to, so you can go back to the weekly. Let me pan this out. So back in the day, this goes back to 2014, this chart, or somewhere around there. Yeah, spring of 14. Bitcoin, of course, held all the dominance of all the cryptocurrencies because there wasn't much else. There was Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a few others. Then back around 16, a lot of other altcoins started being developed, and they started gaining prominence. And you see the dominance of Bitcoin, dominance here, dropping from nearly 100%, 98, 99, down to 95, and then that's 2016 through 2016, as all these other altcoins were coming online and being built up by different companies. And then 2017, which we all know happened if we go back to the Bitcoin chart, 2017, boom, things just started taking off with Bitcoin. It took off and skyrocketed. But here's the thing. All these other altcoins came online, and some of them just took off like 10 times faster than Bitcoin. And so they quickly, all together, not any one of them, but all together, took over the dominance. As you can see, the dominance of Bitcoin fell off sharply from, in conjunction with the rise of Bitcoin in early 2017. Even though Bitcoin was rising exponentially, its dominance in the whole crypto space fell exponentially against the backdrop of all these other altcoins that were being created, the days of the ICOs, initial coin offerings. And so it dropped off. And then, of course, January 18, early 18, it found a bottom. And if we look at Bitcoin, early 18, there's the peak of Bitcoin. So all the altcoins were following Bitcoin here. They were following Bitcoin up, but they were going up much faster, and therefore they took over, as a group, they took over the dominance, until finally the whole crypto space met its peak here, and Bitcoin began to fall off and retrace hugely, like 80% or whatever it was, over the course of time. And that was the bottom of its dominance loss, the low of its dominance. And it began to gain back some of its dominance until we are where we are here. And if we look at it here from August, mid 2019, it began this channel down, a widening channel, and it was loosely following the 200 moving average and down, but at the same time the 50 moving average was coming up. And I drew a few other support and resistance lines here. These areas are areas, I drew areas on the Bitcoin dominance because it's kind of like it fluctuates in areas. So here, we are now here. So if we zoom in, where that's the weekly, we can see, let's just pull this here. Here's the same channel here. And the dominance of Bitcoin falls and rises within this declining channel. Dipped out a bit here, but it basically stayed within this channel. I could draw another line here directly from this one, but until it hit this trend line here and bounced off of this and started gaining back its dominance again to the top of this channel. Now at this point, about back here on the 16th, 15th, 16th, well at this point here actually, back on the 5th, it broke through this again, and so I needed to wait and see what it would do. It fell right back into this channel, so I was wondering if it would lose its dominance or not. And what it is, it stalled for a couple of weeks and then went back up to test it, came back down, and then here we are today, where it finally made a decision and broke through this the top of this channel. And now we're sitting here. It broke through and stayed above it here on the 16th, and then today it really has made a move to the upside. Bitcoin has, in comparison, if we look at Bitcoin, really made a move to the upside compared to, like, say, Ethereum. A lot of these altcoins are based on Ethereum, the Ethereum platform. And so compared to that, Bitcoin has made a strong move, and therefore the Bitcoin dominance has made a move to the upside again. And now, if it stays, we get a couple of more days closed out above this line here, which the way it's going, showing so much strength here right now, I'm pretty sure that's what will happen. Then Bitcoin will continue to dominate, likely up to this next area of between 71 and a half to 275. We go back to the weekly. And it will try to meet come back up to this peak here, 72.9. And then it will make a decision whether it's going to, it'll probably stall around that area again. Within this area, it might go sideways, might make a decision to push through and really show some real strength, or it might fall back down again to another level here. And if it does that, that's when these guys really take off. So what the point I'm trying to say with this Bitcoin dominance chart is it helps me decide whether or not I want to be basically all in on Bitcoin, or basically all in on the altcoins. I'm never really completely out of Bitcoin, but I'm either more into Bitcoin or more into the altcoins. So right now, I was at a decision point here, and this stalled out quite a bit. So from down here somewhere, I've been in mostly Bitcoin, got out of the altcoins and mostly into Bitcoin, and that was a good choice because the Bitcoin increased percentage-wise in value faster than the altcoins that I was in, and I'm only in a few, really. I mean, I've got a whole list of ones here, but it's really only a few that I'm in big time. So I switched. I still hold Bitcoin, a good sum, but I switched back into here because of this point here. Now, I'm going to just leave it at that because I do have Bitcoin. But if you have, if you're just looking at this now and you're trying to decide where should I be in Bitcoin or should I be in the altcoins, I ultimately, if I was in that position, would probably stick with the Bitcoin right now. I'd be mostly in Bitcoin because it's showing real strength and it's moving much faster than the altcoins at this moment. And that could continue for the next few weeks. But if it doesn't hold and it breaks down here, then I would flip back into my altcoins. Because if it breaks back down to this channel now, then it will definitely head back down to somewhere in here, possibly trying to reach this channel here, or this support line here. So that's my take on where, in my opinion, where you should be. You should be in Bitcoin right now, as opposed to altcoins. If you have altcoins, hang on to some of them, but put the majority of your holdings into Bitcoin, and I think you'll see a good increase. But you might want to wait. Let's see what the 4 hour is saying. 4 hour is showing some real strength, and it's right here. If it breaks past this point, which it looks like it's going to do, it's really trying hard, and the pattern is good, it's showing some real strength, then yeah, hang on to Bitcoin. So that's the other tool. Now the interesting thing is, let's get back to Bitcoin here. I want to show you a note from Citibank Manager Director Tom Fitzpatrick. So I belong to an investment club, and I get letters that help me out in my decision making. So this letter: Bitcoin's price action identical to the 1970s gold market. Citibank Manager Director Tom Fitzpatrick released an independent report calling Bitcoin the digital gold of the 21st century. The report is titled Bitcoin 21st Century Gold. His Bitcoin commentary stems from the devaluation of the world's reserve currency. As the Fed accelerates their printing press, Fitzpatrick pointed out distinct analogies between the 1970 gold market and Bitcoin. When the US dollar was first named the world's reserve currency, it was still pegged to gold. But in 1971, Nixon broke the gold standard and the US dollar became just another paper bill. When this happened, the price of gold skyrocketed. And right now, the COVID-19 crisis and the way governments are responding is creating a similar market environment as gold in the 1970s. Fitzpatrick even predicted his future price speculation. He tracked the pattern and predicts BC will hit $318,000 by next December. So the point is, what I was wanting to make is that, one, big corporations and banks, central banks, are buying into Bitcoin now. They are splitting their buyings of gold, and they're also buying Bitcoin. So that's point number one I want to make. So when the big institutions are involved, you know there's something good about to happen with Bitcoin. The other thing which I found really interesting is that this fella said he tracked the pattern and predicts Bitcoin to hit 318,000 by next December, so December 2021. Now here's where I want to show you something that's interesting. I learned from another fella that I'm following. And I'll show you this. I've had this on for a while too. We go back to the weekly. You'll see a couple of things. This is a projected Fibonacci chart up top here. But what you'll see is this other blue lines here, charts. What that is a shadow chart. And it's based on the weekly candles. Based on the weekly candles of what, right? Well, what it is Bitcoin has a unique feature to a lot of different, well, to all stocks and other traditional charts. And that is that Bitcoin has a halving every 4 years. So what I did was I followed this guy's advice. I'll have to show you. I'll make another video on how I did that. But at any rate, so I copied the move from the last halving, or just before the last halving. Or no, it would be after the last halving. And what happened there. And went to the high here. And then I took it and copied it and then expanded it to match this, and then I just basically trace it, see if I can move it like this, right? So I expanded it and I moved it until I put it to the other high. So it was actually from this high to cup and handle, I think it was. At any rate, this is what I did. And so what happened from 2017, the high of 2017 on the weekly, it tends to follow the same pattern. We had a bit of a bump up here, but it came back and it's basically following this pattern again. So here's the interesting thing. At letter, remember he said 318,000. So I'm going to take this out and I'll show you where it goes. When I did this, I couldn't really believe it, but this is where it goes. And it keeps going, 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 until we get to the high here on December 21st. It's not going to be exact. It's not going to be December 20. It's not going to be exactly, but in and around December 21st, to a high of, I have 300. Of course, I've moved it a little bit. Yeah, so I was just playing with it a little bit. It was about $320,000. So pretty darn close to what this the managing director, Tom Fitzpatrick, was quoted. Now, I don't know where he got his numbers from or how he came to that, but I find it very interesting that this little technique that was shown me comes and shows a projected target a year from now of the exact same thing that a Citibank general manager is saying, or managing director is saying. So I just found that very interesting, and I thought I'd leave that with you guys, whoever's watching these videos that I put out. And I will try to put out, I'll try to show a little bit more explanation on that, another video. And so I hope this video has been good for you guys. If it has, if you appreciate it, click the like down below, and any other links that I have, check them out. All right, have a good day.